All right, well, good evening, everybody. My name is Amy Vetter. I work for an organization called Safe Families Canada, and we work at the Edmonton chapter. The Edmonton chapter opened up in the fall of 2020, and so kind of in the midst of the pandemic, but we're proud to be a part of the national network of Safe Families chapters that support people all across Canada. So currently we have 16 chapters. It started in Toronto, and it's kind of been moving its way west. And yeah, our heart is to support families who are experiencing crisis. So we seek to surround families in crisis with caring, compassionate community, because we think that our communities are so important just in the way that we experience wellness and the way that we're able to access help when we experience crisis. So I just want you guys to imagine for a minute and just remember back to the last time that you experienced a crisis. Think about what situation was happening, maybe an event that caused that crisis to happen. Has everybody got a memory? Now think about who was there to support you. Maybe you reached out to family, maybe you had friends, maybe you're part of a faith community, maybe you reached out to a teacher or another family member. All of us have lots of people in our networks that we can reach out to when we're experiencing crisis. But there are those in our community who don't have those support networks, whether they're new Canadians and their family lives far away, whether they're estranged from family because of abuse or just difficult circumstances, whether they have moved across the country and they're just figuring things out, or maybe they're like myself and they're fiercely independent and they don't like asking for help. So these are all the cases in which families can find themselves in crisis. Now at Safe Families, these are our values. We seek to show radical hospitality. We seek to show disruptive generosity, and we seek to show compassion fueled by mercy. Everything we do at Safe Families is all about relationships. We believe in supporting people because there's just that innate value in human interaction. And nobody likes to feel like a project or like they're a nuisance when they're experiencing crisis, because it's something that we all go through. When I was a young mom, we had just moved to another province, and I had my first baby, and my husband was working 80-hour work weeks. We lived in a basement suite. We only had one small window, and I found myself experiencing some postpartum depression. And it was really difficult for me because my family lived far away. I was in a new place. I hadn't made friends yet. And so I was actually able to find some help and support through a faith community. And if it wasn't for that, I think that I would have found myself in a very different place today without having that support. So I found there people that could walk alongside me and encourage me, that could offer some babysitting for me when I just needed a break, that could give me a ride to different events and social gatherings, that kind of thing. And also people that encouraged me to seek counseling. And so those were all some really important ways that in my own life, I've been able to find help in times of crisis. So Safe Families Edmonton has 4 objectives. They seek to develop family support and stabilization. They seek to do child welfare deflection. So that just means that we want to be an early intervention. So before kids need to be apprehended from the home, we want to come and surround that family with the supports and resources that are needed before they get to the place where that's the next step for them. And we also seek to have child abuse prevention. So we don't want to see kids be put in the place where abuse or neglect begins to be their reality. And then lastly, we want to strengthen compassion and support within communities. I think we've all seen since the COVID pandemic that there's a lot of increased isolation, and there's kind of this draw inward that we've all experienced, because for a time that was what was needed for our health. And so some of these kind of fabric of communities have started to be pulled apart. And so through our work, we seek to reconnect communities in ways that show compassion and support for people in your neighborhood and for people in your workplace and at your school. So here's how Safe Families works. When we get a referral, we've got some different roles that create a circle of support. And so the first role is a family friend. Family friends are people, just like the name sounds, friends that come along somebody that's experiencing crisis. They provide kind of that peer-to-peer support. Somebody to talk to, someone to encourage them in their parenting, someone to offer them a ride, maybe to a doctor's appointment, maybe provide some babysitting for them if they just need a break. Those are the types of things. Then we also have something that's really unique. We have a hosting program. So if parents, let's say a single mom is having another baby and has nowhere safe for her older children to go, we have host families that are willing to take in those kids for as long as needed while they go in and have their baby, or maybe they're having medical treatments done for cancer or something like that. Maybe they need to attend a drug or rehab program and they have no family that they can ask to take the kids while they do that. That's one of the things that we can do. So we can provide hosting for 24 hours up to 3 months, depending on what is most helpful for families. And all with the goal that we want to help families stay together. But sometimes we recognize that that means that there needs to be a little bit of a break. So we've worked with some teens and parents who just keep butting heads over and over. And so they just need a minute to kind of reflect on their own, have another voice in their life, and just think through ways that they're able to then be back together and work in ways that are helpful for each other. We also have a family coach, and so that's either myself or one of our more highly trained volunteers that sits down with the family in crisis when they're first referred to us, and we just develop a plan together. So we get a clear picture of what's the crisis that they're experiencing, what does it look and feel like, and then we talk about what are some resources or things that safe families could do that would help support them in this time of crisis. And then talk about some of their goals and the things that they would like to do to move forward as they seek to move through the crisis. Because we know that everybody has that desire to be able to move through. They don't want to get stuck kind of in cyclical crisis where they're always in a place where they're needing help. And so that's where our family coaches come in. And then we just lastly paint a picture of what is it going to look like when you're not in crisis anymore? What are some things that are going to be true? Because it can often happen that, when we're in crisis, sometimes we get to the other side and we haven't quite realized yet that life actually looks a lot different now than it did when we came into our crisis. And then last, we have resource friends. So our resource friends are a group of volunteers that maybe don't have a lot of time to give, but they do have a special skill or trade that they're able to offer services with. So maybe that's like legal advice, maybe that's plumbing or electrical, maybe that's their mechanic and they can fix a vehicle. Maybe there's somebody that likes to cook and they just love to provide some freezer meals for a new mom. Maybe there's somebody that likes to drive and would like to drive people to different appointments and that kind of thing. And so that's our circle of support. So all of this is done with the hopes that we can keep families together and that we can provide that support for them as they go through their crisis. So next, I just have a little video to share a story. It comes out of London, Ontario, and it kind of gives a good picture of all of those different roles in the circle of support and what the experience was like supporting this mom. So let's watch.
After I had my son, my anxiety was getting really bad. I wasn't sleeping, I was trying to eat properly, and the wrong medications that I was on, and my anxiety was getting worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point where I couldn't handle anything. And there was nobody really to reach out to except for Children's Aid, so I called the intake people and talked to them, and that was out of severe desperation because I wouldn't want Children's Aid to be involved with me. The lady that I talked to on the phone, she said she knew about safe families because the only other option was to put my son in a foster home.
I received a phone call from the Children's Aid Society informing me of a mother who had just had a son 3 weeks earlier, and she was really struggling and needed some support. She needed help not only with her son, but just a break while she was able to work on some of the health issues that she was going through. We were able to find her a host home, a family friend, and people who were able to rally around her, to love her through this time, to care for her son, and to help her back on her feet.
When Safe Families came into my life, I was very surprised by the amount of help that they were offering me. And it wasn't judgmental, it wasn't unnecessary in any way. Like, it was very nice and caring. When Greg came to my house and he understood, how much I didn't want to be separated from my son. It was just amazing. Like, he came to my door and he was helping me with the baby, and he was very understanding as a father himself.
As a host home, we had an infant with us, so we were able to just continue on with our daily routines and daily life. He just kind of joined in all our family activities. We took him to family birthday dinners, and we took him to a wedding, and he just was part of the family for those weeks that he was with us.
I was still kind of nervous about the whole thing for a little bit, but I just kept getting told, this is we're like your family, just treat us like your family.
On top of the mom getting support, we also had supports given to us. The first night, I don't think I slept at all. The next night, we had our family coach come over, and she actually spent the night taking care of the baby so I could get to sleep and be functioning the next day.
I was very lucky because the host mother, she gave me her cell phone number and she texted me, and we got to talk about Toby. So it wasn't like Toby was gone and I couldn't see him or hear about him.
We were able to go to the doctor's appointments with the baby and birth mom just to get the information that we needed and make a connection with the mom.
Just amazing. They came and they helped me out, and Greg picked me up. We all went to the doctor and everybody got filled in on Toby. There were lots of practical things that Safe Families offered. When Greg came to my house and he came to my door and he was helping me with the baby, and then he's telling me I'm getting a family friend, and I'm like, I'm getting a family friend? Who? That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I'm getting a friend too?
I was the designated family friend, and I didn't really know what that role entailed, but I thought, okay, I'll start and contact her and have coffee, and we sort of worked out, I think, the different schedules, what her needs were.
I got a lot of support from Itsuki too. She'd even bring us cupcakes, and I was like, wow, you're bringing me cupcakes? Thank you so much. That's very thoughtful.
If it's just making a pan of muffins and bringing them over and say, look, you know what, I'm here for you.
It's helpful to have someone care about the little things that you have to do, because they're not little.
I think as a church, we're called to take care of others, and so this is the perfect opportunity to show that love and to have an outlet to pour out Jesus' love on others.
It's a really good life experience to have, to work with other people. It's a really good way to step out there and perhaps be a little braver than we would be normally.
Greg had talked about it like a blanket kind of experience, or coming up our circle, coming around the family, and it really was like that.
In working with Adriana and her children, it made me more aware of generally all the needs around me.
My life is dramatically different now. The support I got from Safe Families has stayed with me in my heart. God really helped me.
Yeah, so that's Adrianne's story. So here's some common questions that people have about Safe Families. So first of all, where are families referred from? The short answer is we get referrals from all over, and people can also self-refer as well. So from hospitals, police stations, refugee centers, social workers, homeless shelters, schools, kind of you name it, and we've gotten referrals from there. We worked with a family in this last year who had just lost their jobs, and then because of that, they also lost their housing as well. And so they were homeless, and they had a 2-year-old daughter. And so their friend knew about Safe Families and reached out to us. And we were able to have their daughter hosted while they were getting paperwork and getting some income support and different things. And so we actually got connected to the Edmonton Police Help Unit through them, through kind of an interesting story. So it's really important for us because we are a voluntary program and we want to keep that parent and child relationship close. We'll often facilitate frequent visits or phone calls at bedtime, that kind of thing, just to try to keep that connection. And so during one of their in-person visits, they were at a McDonald's, the couple and their 2-year-old daughter. And, a concerned neighbor called the police and said, I think this family's homeless and they have a young child and I'm just worried about them. So the help unit came to McDonald's and met this couple and their daughter. And they said, well, yes, you are right. We are homeless. but our daughter is not homeless. She's being hosted through this organization called Safe Families. And so the help unit was like, oh, this is so interesting. We've never heard of Safe Families before. So they came over to our office and we kind of shared a little bit about the work that we do. And through that opportunity, we were able to share a little bit with the help unit about the services that we offer. And so that was really a neat experience for us, just to see the ways in which people are able to find out and access the resources that they need. And often, word of mouth is the best way. Yes, of course.
So about the families who volunteer to help, are they screened or they're just kind of coming forward saying that, hey, I want to volunteer for hosting children?
Yeah.
Or what is the process?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure if you are going to explain that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I can answer that question now. Yeah, so all of our volunteers are heavily screened. There's an application process that they do online, and then they do a police check and an intervention record check, and then we do reference calling as well. And then we do, for our host families, we do a home study that's very similar to kind of what the foster care system would use, where we make sure that, everything's safe and chemicals and medicines and that kind of thing are locked up and where they should be. And then we do a training program specific to the type of volunteer role that they're going to do. And then while they're hosting, we kind of do a weekly in-person visit as well as some phone call check-ins kind of every day or every other day just to see how things are going. And we kind of imagine that we're supporting not just the family who's in crisis, but we're also supporting all of the volunteers that are involved with that family. And so we'll often do kind of a diaper run, or people will bring some freezer meals to the host family, that kind of thing, just wanting to support and just show the appreciation, because all of our people that work in those circles of supports are volunteers. And so they're just giving of their time. And yeah, it's a really neat opportunity just to kind of show that love of community and support. So yeah, great question. Thank you. Awesome. So the children that we're able to support and host, about 80% of them are under the age of 5. And then, we can accept anyone 0 to 18. Usually the teenager age are not really as open to being hosted, but certainly we would. We do have some host families that love to take in teen moms and just help them to get off on the right foot as they're becoming mothers and kind of figuring out all of those things as well. And, everything that we do is voluntary. And so if we were to, let's say, have a host family that was picking the kids up from school and they went to school and the kids were upset and didn't want to go with them, then the volunteers would just call the family and just say, hey, here's the situation. We're at the school and, your son or daughter isn't wanting to come with us. And would you be able to come down to the school and just help figure out what we should do next? So we want to be really just careful about protecting those kids, because it can be a traumatic experience to be away from your parents. And so as much as possible, we try to help them feel like they're in control and that, this is part of a plan that we can help support their family and get them back with mom or dad. How long do children stay? So like I said, anywhere from 24 hours up to 3 months. Our average length of stay is 2 weeks. In Edmonton, we've done 3 stays now that have been about 2 months long. And then at the end of the 3 months, it's not like they're cut off, if there's still crisis going on, or maybe they're in rehab or incarceration that would last longer than that. We would kind of, on a case-by-case basis, just decide kind of what the next best steps would be. We don't always host children. We certainly can support families who having their children hosted is not what's most helpful for them, but maybe that family friend role, or maybe kind of a family coach that can help them figure out, with inflation and the cost of groceries, how do you make those grocery dollars stretch? How do you live on a budget? How do you kind of work with when you're feeling that mom guilt of your kids really want this brand new gaming system, but you're living on a tight income? And how do you work with some of those feelings and experiences? So like I said, we build a 3-month kind of crisis plan that we go with, but we generally support a family from anywhere from 6 to 12 months, just depending on how their crisis unfolds. We usually see that our family friends only serve with us for a short time because they become friends with the people that they're working with, and then they become a part of their network. And we have families often, having each other over for supper, or maybe they get together for coffee and that kind of thing. And so that's actually a really exciting part of what we do, although it makes for a bit more volunteer recruitment. But we're excited to see that, those community connections and that network is being built around these families that are in higher risk. So in Edmonton in this last year, here's some of the stats. So the 308 hostings, that would be anytime a child is sleeping away from their own bed. So we did 308 of those. We worked with 12 families in the last year. We've worked with 45 since we opened just over 2 years ago. We've got 9 host families that we work with, 51 volunteers. We've got 13 different organizations across the city that refer to us. And we're always looking to kind of come across more organizations and build more partnerships, because we certainly don't want to be recreating the wheel in what we do. We want to draw on the resources that are already available and just provide that relational support. Sometimes it can be a barrier, even though you know the help is out there, to be able to take that first step and make the phone call or go to the office or, you know, fill out the paperwork that can be very confusing. So that's where we like to come in. So awesome. And this is how you can contact us, our email, our phone number. Yeah, like I said, we take referrals from anywhere, or families can self-refer, but we'd love to have a conversation about how we can support and help. At the moment, we don't have a wait list, and so we're usually able to match people within kind of 24 to 48 hours with, you know, some of those pieces of the circle of support. And awesome. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you. And I would love to learn about all of the other organizations that are represented here so that we can continue to partner together.